Welcome back to Kimchi Redneck's Home Cooking Editions. So, while Melissa is out and about visiting the families and doing all that sorts of good familial stuff, I have to take care of myself. Which, I'm a grown-ass adult, I can do that. So, one of the things I'm going to do is show you one of my favorite recipes that we don't actually make all that often because in Korea, it's almost just as cheap to just go buy it at a restaurant as it is to make it. Because to make it as cheap as they make it at the restaurant, you have to make a whole lot of it. But I'm going to try and make a cheap, easy version of it with stuff that I have in the fridge. So I'm going to have to make a few substitutions off the general recipe. And we're going to see how that works. So what I'm making today is, I'm going to call it College Edition Kimchi Jjigae. Because you know when you're in college, you cook stuff with whatever you have in the fridge. So, we're going to make kimchi jjigae with what I got in the fridge. Let's see what I got. Alright, so this shot is probably going to give Melissa a heart attack because I've got the kitchen counter a mess here. Mainly it's just because the rice cooker is up here for me to cook rice in, and that takes up a lot of space and makes everything else look all crowded. And I've got some cans and stuff up here for some chili I'm going to make. But what I've got here is 200 grams of kimchi, and this is just store-bought kimchi. That's why I know it's 200 grams. It's right there. And if you look in the bag, if I can get it open here, if you can see down in there, there's some kimchi juice left over in there. So keep that. You're going to want to use that. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the stock. Now, traditionally, with kimchi jjigae, you're going to use a anchovy kelp radish broth. I could make that, but I'm not going to, because I'm not going to use that broth for anything else. Normally you would substitute that with vegetable broth, but I'm going to be making chili tomorrow and I've got beef broth out, so I'm using beef broth, so that's going to be a little different. For the meat, I've got some leftover oven barbecue that I've made. Let me open that up. Yes, and that came out spectacular. That made an awesome barbecue sandwich earlier. Anyway, so that's going to go in as our meat of choice. We've got some green onion, because green onion goes on everything in Korean cooking. I've got half a regular onion, chopped up into not too small bits. I've got some green onions to go on the top. Some soy sauce. I've got gochugaru here, which is the red pepper flake. The recipe I've got actually calls for both this and gochujang, the paste. I don't have the paste, so I'm just going to double up on the flakes and see how it goes. And I've got soft tofu, because I had soft tofu in the fridge for some reason. The recipe normally calls for like a medium firm, but that ain't what I got. So, let's see what we can do here. To start off with here, I've turned the eye on to about a medium. We're going to let that start heating up. And we're going to pour in about a tablespoon and a half, 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. To that, we're going to add pork. Next up, we're going to add a little salt to that. Not much, about a fat pinch, about maybe a half teaspoon. A little black pepper. This is just a taste. And just because I like it, I'm going to add a little sesame seed. So, then we've got our broth, our brine out of the bag that I've mixed with a little bit of beef stock. And our kimchi, which I need both hands for that one, so I'll be right back. Alright, so I added the kimchi, which had been rough chopped, the onions, and the white part of the green onions. I left some of the green part up here to use as garnish later. Throw that over there. Next we need the red pepper flakes, which normally I have the amount of spicy stuff that's in the recipe, but I have to double up on this because I don't have the paste, so I'm going to wind up using about the regular amount, or 1 tablespoon of red pepper flakes. That seems about right. Just use feeling, like Uncle Roger tells you. Alright, so now we're going to add some more broth. And I don't want that to be too beef flavored, so I'm going to cut that with some water. Alright, so I poured maybe about a cup of beef broth in there, and then I used just regular water, good water, not tap water, to bring it up to the water covering everything. And then we are going to cover this, let it come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to turn it down to about a good medium low to low, and we're going to let it simmer for about 20 minutes. So after that, we'll add a little bit of soy sauce and some tofu, dubu in Korean, and we'll get back to that. All right, so as you can see, steam. We're at a nice bubbly cooking there. It's been cooking for about 20-25 minutes, so the kimchi should be getting tender. So next up, we're gonna grab the soy sauce. This doesn't need a whole lot, just about, there we go, about a tablespoon or so. I'll mix that in. Now, I'm gonna grab this real quick, because I was rereading the recipe to make sure I hadn't forgot anything, and it told me that I need sugar. I don't remember putting sugar in this before, but let's add a little, oh, there we go. Doesn't need much, just a sprinkle. We're gonna throw that in there. All right, now the soft tofu. I need to open this. Hold on a second. All right, so as you can tell, I've cut the nipple off of that. It's actually dripping tofu juice on the table, but that leaves a little gap right there where I'm gonna grab about halfway in this container, because that's probably about all I'm gonna need. And we're gonna squeeze that in there. Actually, I don't think I'm gonna have anything other use for this tofu, and I don't want it to go bad, so I'm just gonna put it all in there. It's not like tofu's bad for you or anything. Get a little stir action on that. Let's take a quick taste of our broth. Ow! Try not to burn myself on the pot. Yep, so that's doing pretty good. I'm actually going to add a little more gochugaru to it, since I'm missing my gochujang. I don't know how I don't have gochujang. I also don't have rice, and I'm not sure how I don't have rice. I've used all my instant rice, and I don't have any rice ready in the cooker, so I'm going to have to eat this without rice. That's, I'm pretty sure, somehow illegal in Korea, or at least it's very frowned upon, but you make do with what you got. Anyway, we'll give that a quick little stir again. Mix that in. All right. So, I'm going to turn that back up just a little bit to get the heat going. Cover it up. Let it go for about another 10 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes. Then you serve yourself a bowl, and we're going to garnish with the green onions. So, we'll be back. All right, everybody. So here we are. Nice bowl of Kimchi Jjigae. All the soup's going on one side there. So obviously, this is not a traditional Kimchi Jjigae. This is what I call college gourmet. So when I was in college, I was a specialist at trying to remake a recipe with what I had about. And there are probably a few stories I could tell about that, but that's not the point. So what did I change in this one? Instead of using pork belly or pork shoulder and just like frying it up in the sesame oil, I used some leftover oven barbecue that I made. It's still pork shoulder, so that should be fine. So there was beef stock instead of the regular Korean radish stock or vegetable stock. Not gonna be a big difference. And this one I wound up using soft tofu because it was in the fridge, because I think Melissa was planning on making sundubu jjigae, and for that one you need soft tofu. So as you can probably see, the tofu does kind of dissolve a bit in here with the soft tofu, so if you want your actual little cubes or slabs or however you cut it, you're going to need a medium firm to a firm tofu. The biggest catastrophe here is that I don't have any rice. You do not understand until you have lived in an Asian country how important rice is. You know, once my ex told me that as long as she had steamed rice and kimchi, she was fine. That was all she needed for a meal. And at the time, I thought she was full of it. But after a few years of living in Korea, you know, when I lived here with her and then for a while by myself, I ate a lot of rice. Rice is really easy to get. Rice cookers are really easy to get. Microwave rice is really easy to get, and it's all good. And just the the flavor of an actual short grain sticky rice steamed to the right level with something on it. Doesn't have to be kimchi. It can be marinated quail egg, or some gypsal, or that marinated spinach that they make, or that honeyed lotus root. Honeyed lotus root is good. Something to go on the rice to eat with it, and you can make a meal out of that. No joke, it is real. I'm sitting here making myself hungry, and I got a bowl of food in front of me. What am I doing? So, let's taste this. Let's try with the tofu in the stock here. Okay, the barbecue does add a slightly different flavor to it because obviously the barbecue was seasoned when I cooked it, but it's not bad. It's just, you can tell it's barbecue and not some sort of regular fried pork. So let's get a little bit of said barbecue and some kimchi and onion. There's the barbecue. All right, so there's a spoonful of all the goodness. That's good. I am not mad at that. So, figuring that I already had the stuff in the fridge, the prep work for that, had to open a thing of kimchi and rough chop it, had to cut an onion, had to cut some green onions, or some chives, or whatever you call them. Maybe 10 minutes worth of prep work. You just dump the stuff in, you mix it together, you bring it to a boil, cook for 20 minutes, add the tofu and the scallions for the topping, and cook it for another 10-15 minutes of prep work, maybe 40-45 minutes of cooking, and this is good. Another good thing about this, if you have ramen noodles, now I specifically actually have ramen noodles that have no powder or anything in the package. It's just ramen noodles. But if you have ramen noodles and you don't like the seasoning or the little veggie packs that comes with it, just boil it in water for like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, get it enough to get it to soften up and loosen up. Drain the water out, and then put Kimchi Jjigae on it. Awesome. That's actually about half of a recipe called Buddha Jjigae, which is a different recipe that we'll do for you one day. But, oh yeah, guys. This is good stuff. So, I'm going to eat this, like, subscribe, do the internet stuff. I will see y'all around another time.